Hi, my mentor Tyler and my education technology classmates. Today, I want to share my milestone one for my course project. I make a slide to summarize my progress snapshots to better demonstrate my progress and collect some feedbacks. And so this is my first intermediate milestone for CS6440, and my project is a development track prototype of a large language model-based learning assistant. And the main goal is not to make the AI answer questions faster, but to make it support productive struggle, helping students think through a problem without intermediate giving away the solution. The problem I'm responding to is that general purpose language models are very good at completing tasks for students that can be useful, but it can also reduce the amount of reasoning a student does. My project asks whether we can redesign the interaction so that the large language model behaves more like a learning coach. For this first milestone, I'm focusing on the early prototype and the core interaction design rather than a complete finished system. So far, I have built the initial prototype structure and drafted the main prompt templates, Socratic questions, graduated hints, and self-explanation prompts. I also created several sample learning scenarios and tested the assistant's responses. The biggest issue I found is calibration. Sometimes the assistant gives help that is too specific, which undermines productive struggle. My next design need is a more explicit escalation policy for the level of support. This is the current interaction flow. The student first makes an attempt. The assistant then asks a Socratic question that encourages students to inspect their reasoning. If the student is still stuck, the system provides graduate hints. At the end, the student is asked to explain the solution or summarize what changed in their thinking. I'm experimenting with escalation signals, such as repeated errors, direct question requests for the answer, or explanations that show a misconception. The prototype have three main layers. The prompt defines the behavior of the assistant. The scenario layer gives the system a controlled set of tasks, including expected reasoning passes and common mistakes. The evaluation layer is a checklist I'm using to judge whether the assistant's response is appropriate. This is intentional low fidelity at this stage, but it is testable enough to support feedback. This slide shows a simplified example of the intended interaction. The important part is that the assistant does not immediately say, here is the correct formula. Instead, it asks the student to intercept the numbers in the problem. Once the student begins to notice the issue, the assistant gives a more specific prompt. This is the kind of interaction I want to refine through feedback. Enough support to move the student forward, but not so much that the AI does the reasoning for them. For peer review, I want feedback on the interaction design rather than only surface level polish. First, does the hint sequence feel gradual enough? Second, are the Socratic questions genuinely useful, or do they ask feeling vague? weak. Sorry, weak. Third, how should the systems respond if a student repeatedly asks for the answer? Finally, what evaluation criteria would best show that the system is supporting reasoning, not simply as task completion? And so after this milestone, I will revise the prompt templates and the explanation logic based on feedback. For milestone 2, I want a more complete interactive demo and possibly a small informal test with potential users. For the final project, the goal is a working prototype plus a design rationale and evaluation of the system's feedback quality. And thank you. And I look forward to feedback on how to make this tutor more helpful without making it a shortcut.